Good morning, everyone. Did you watch the oil crash yesterday? Did you see the oil numbers go from 2020 numbers back to 1986 numbers? Yeah, that happened. That's a big deal, and we're going to talk about that. But Trump also sending envoys to underline to the government in Ottawa about how important he sees it that they not let Huawei sell their wares to our internet providers, to Bell and Rogers. And I've got news about that too. And so much more happening in the world. And what does Trudeau focus on? What is his main concern on March 8th? That's yesterday. Today's the 9th. Well, CBC News is reporting federal government prepares to introduce nationwide conversion therapy ban. The Liberal Party committed to bringing forward the changes in its 2019 election platform. So this is, what is this? Fulfilling a promise, I guess. But in this backdrop of what's been happening in the world, this just seems like either a distraction or just a tone-deaf lumbering about, right? Like the government's job is to, first and foremost, protect the country. And when you see oil drop from 2020 levels to 1986 levels, that's a really big deal. And I mean, how big a deal is it? Here's how big a deal it is. CBC News is reporting oil prices take biggest plunge in decades. Canadian energy companies endure hard sell-off. As of Monday, Suncor had lost more than 25% of its value, and Cenovus was down by almost half. Cenovus? Yeah, Cenovus. There's no R there. Okay. Oil prices dropped dramatically on Monday, with North American stock markets briefly halted shortly after opening. Canadian energy companies were sold off hard. As of early Monday, Suncor had lost more than 25% of its value, and Cenovus was down by almost half. North American stock markets were halted shortly after opening on Monday morning, as circuit breakers designed to slow down panic selling kicked in within minutes. The New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, TSX all hit what's known as level 1 trading halt within minutes of opening. Such a halt automatically suspends all trading on the market for 15 minutes when there's been a decline of more than 7%. Okay, so I didn't know any of this stuff. And I mean, like, I dabble in the stock market. I don't have a lot of money in the stock market, but I didn't know any of this, right? So this is designed to be a firewall against panic selling. And I mean, monkeying in the market is very interesting, right? Like, oh, well, we'll give you 15 minutes to think about it. And then if it continues, a level 2 halt automatically kicks in after a decline of 13% for another 15 minutes. If the decline hits 20%, a level 3 halt shuts down trading for the rest of the day. You think about this. You think about what you've done. Do you really want to get rid of 20% of the value of this stock? No? Okay, you better buy some more tomorrow. And if not, you can only lose another 20%. Free market indeed, right? Isn't that interesting? Back to the article. The TSX lost more than 1,400 points, or 8%, within minutes of opening, so the Canadian index's circuit breaker was triggered. That's the worst day for the TSX since the financial crisis. The trading halts were lifted 15 minutes after being implemented, and the selling has continued both in the US and Canada, although not by enough to implement a level 2 halt so far. The panic started on Sunday evening after Saudi Arabia kicked off an all-out price war in the oil market, announcing it would be removing any production caps. That move sent the price of crude tumbling more than 25% and came on top of existing fears over the coronavirus currently spreading around the world. Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. West Texas Intermediate crude fell $11.80 US to $29.48, and international benchmark Brent fell $12 to 33.20. By Monday morning, Western Canadian Select had plummeted to 22.33 per barrel, 33 per barrel. It was the largest single-day drop since the beginning of the Gulf War in 1991. Prices are falling as Saudi Arabia, Russia, and oil-producing countries argue about how much to cut production in order to prop up the prices. Demand for energy is falling as people cut back on travel around the world. The worry is that the coronavirus outbreak will slow economies sharply, meaning even less demand. OPEC and key ally Russia failed to agree Friday on a cut to oil production that would have contained the plunge, and on Saturday, Saudi Arabia's state oil giant Aramco slashed export prices. We're seeing the outcome of a 1-2 punch in terms of demand shock from the coronavirus, and on top of that, this weekend's news of a price war started after the breakdown of OPEC plus Russia arrangements, said Blake Schaefer, an assistant professor of economics at the public policy at the University of Calgary. Schaefer said the demand side drop was expected, but the more recent development of a price war is a supply side issue that's hammering the market. The oil market has seen arguments like this before. In 2014, OPEC held off production cuts in order to hold on to market share in the face of a resurgent U.S. oil industry. That led to a tumble from over $100 U.S. a barrel to below 40 by 2015. But experts say this drop is much more dramatic. This is really a really big move. I was an energy trader for 15 years. I don't have all the daily moves in my head, but this would definitely be one of the biggest ones I've seen, Schaefer said. Martin Pelletier, a portfolio manager with Trivest Wealth Council in Calgary, said this is a nuclear-sized event for an already hurting Alberta, and if it's not contained, the economic malaise could spread to the rest of the country. This could be the knockout punch for Alberta, unfortunately, Pelletier said, adding that some companies might not survive the hit. We're going to really need some leadership coming out of Ottawa, and I mean both the Bank of Canada and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the government. This is a crisis. This is a very serious event. Pelletier said he'd like to see both large fiscal spending programs tailored to impact provinces and an emergency rate cut. The Alberta government's recent spring budget forecasts WTI will average $58 US a barrel in the coming year, and Schaefer said this is bad news both for the economy as a whole and for the province's royalty revenues. Roughly every dollar per barrel is about $350 million to the government. We're talking about a $7 billion decline in revenue expectations, he said, adding that about $2 billion is made up from the improved differential and the Canadian dollar. So the hit would be about $5 billion, right? That's huge. And there's more to the story as well. Link is in the description if you want to read the rest. Here is Globe and Mail reporting U.S. sends top advisor to warn Ottawa against Huawei 5G networks. So this is what I was talking about. So I think the collapse of the oil prices is a bigger hit than most people understand. And I think that this little part at the end here, talking about how every dollar is about $350 million to the government, right? Every dollar per barrel. So that's just a massive, massive impact. And after years of malaise Alberta's been under attack from Ottawa since Justin Trudeau took over, right? Like no pipelines, no nothing, and vilification of the oil industry, etc. So, this could be a big deal for Alberta. Not so good. And here is Donald Trump. U.S. President sends top advisor to warn Ottawa against Huawei 5G networks. U.S. President Donald Trump is dispatching his point man on Huawei technologies to Ottawa Monday to press the Trudeau government on barring the Chinese telecom giant from next-generation 5G wireless networks in Canada. Robert Blair, White House Special Representative for International Telecommunications, will be laying out U.S. national security objections over Huawei's 5G wireless gear in a meeting with Public Safety Minister Bill Blair and senior officials from the Department of Innovation, Foreign Affairs and Defense, Canadian and U.S. sources say. The Globe and Mail is keeping their names confidential because they are not authorized to publicly comment on the matter. The U.S. source said the special representative, who is Deputy White House Chief of Staff as well, will also warn Canada that it could lose access to sensitive intelligence if Huawei is allowed to sell its 5G gear to Canadian wireless carriers. This is the first high-level U.S. visit to Ottawa that is solely in support of the U.S. campaign to press allies to bar Huawei from Western telecommunication infrastructure. Washington has also planned to send Deputy National Security Advisor Matthew Pottinger and economic advisor Larry Kudlow, but they had to cancel to deal with the coronavirus crisis, according to the source. And yet, what happens? And this happened weeks ago, right? Here is TELUS plans rollout of 5G networks using Huawei technology, says CBC. Oh my goodness, right? Isn't that crazy? Oh, I had a whole... Yeah, that was supposed to be smoother than that, but that didn't work out. That's okay. I'm not going to read this one. They're just using Huawei technology. And I think it's funny that Trump's sending somebody specifically to say, don't do that. And it's like, too late, man. Too late. Trudeau doesn't seem to care. He doesn't seem to care. I think that's what people, even me, I thought maybe he did care. I don't think he cares at all. Not at all. Okay, moving on. Here's CP24. Staff and students at Rosedale Elementary School may have been exposed to individual with coronavirus, COVID-19. Staff and students at an elementary school in Rosedale are being warned that they may have been exposed to an individual that has since tested positive for COVID-19. Toronto's medical officer for health, Dr. Eileen Devilla, sent a letter to members of the Whitney Junior Public School community over the weekend, informing them that an individual with a confirmed case of the virus visited the building on March 4th. The Toronto District School Board has said that the individual was not a staff member or a student at the school, though the reason for being there has not been released. In her letter, Devilla said that the individual was not symptomatic on the day they visited the school, and therefore the risk to staff and students is considered low. Do they not understand that this is spread asymptomatically while they're infected? Nonetheless, members of the school community are being urged to monitor for symptoms and to call ahead if they need to seek medical treatment. Okay, so you've been exposed. Don't worry, nothing to worry about. But if you start to show symptoms, call ahead and let them know that you've been exposed to the coronavirus. Right? Like sometimes when the advice sounds like that, they're not telling you the truth about the other thing. Back to this. Quote, symptoms of COVID-19 may appear in as few as 2 days or as long as 14 days after exposure and may include fever, new onset cough, difficulty breathing, fatigue, chills, malaise, sore throat, and or diarrhea, Davila said in the letter. This is interesting as well. I want to point out, this was not widely reported, and now it's being reported as if it's like been one of the symptoms that's been widely known for a long time. And I understand that this attacks the lungs and everybody's saying it's a respiratory thing, but nobody said clearly that difficulty breathing, until like people were actually dying of this, is one of the symptoms. And I think that it's interesting now that there's a lot more people who have been exposed, we're seeing this language come in here. So pay attention, right? They know more than they're telling us, I think. Back to this, which plays into the idea that the BC health minister was having a hard time at the press conference saying those who are at higher risk. I mean, if everyone's at high risk, you can't, there isn't segments of the population that are at higher or lower risk. And I understand again that they say that children don't get as sick with this, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I hope that's true. Back to this. He said no additional precautions have been taken. I'll do this. Toronto District School Board spokesperson Ryan Bird said the caretaking staff have been doing enhanced cleaning on handrails, doorknobs, and push plates at all schools given the emerging threat from COVID-19. He said that no additional precautions have been taken specific to Whitney Junior Public School, however. We take our lead from the Toronto Public Health, and they have not recommended any additional precautions outside of what was outlined for the community in the letter. Bird told CP24. There have been 32 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Ontario so far, including 4 that were announced on Sunday alone. David Williams, Chief Medical Officer of Health for Ontario, is expected to discuss the latest cases at a regular scheduled briefing this afternoon. And here's the 10:30 a.m. as of March 9th. I've seen conflicting reports already. I saw 32 this morning, and I didn't tag the sheet or the link, so I apologize for that, but I saw more, and maybe the 32 is total cases, so maybe this is actually saying there's 34 total and 4 like resolved. And I know yesterday, I want to talk to this, I know I've seen this number 4. I was kind of joking saying that they'll just put deaths in here. It was tongue-in-cheek. I understand that they're saying they're defining resolved here. I'm just saying they could just add a little comma dead, right? Like that's what I was talking about. I wasn't saying that they were gonna, because it's easy, right? It's all resolved, recovered or dead, it's resolved. Anyway, sorry. Sometimes I'm trying to make a joke. Maybe it didn't come off as a joke. Anyway, moving on. And who knows, right? Like hopefully this doesn't go the way of Italy. I really hope it doesn't go the way of Italy. We'll see very shortly. Here's 680 News. Health Minister Patty Haydu, each repatriated Canadian or family will be housed in a separate accommodation to reduce potential for other quarantined individuals, and they'll monitor their health and make their stay as comfortable as possible. These are cruise ship passengers, and it says the Chief Public Health Officer, Theresa Tam, today the Public Health Agency of Canada is recommending that Canadians avoid all cruise ship travel due to COVID-19. So if you've got a cruise booked, cancel it. Cancel it. It's a really bad. If you have a cruise booked and this has been going on, what is going on in your head? What is going on in your head? Here is somebody who's apparently going to Italy, and this is the fully boarded flight. What are you thinking, you people? I mean, there's like 10 or 12 people there. Why would you go to Italy now? I mean, like, they're having a hard time, clearly. It just doesn't. Would you go to a place that's suffering earthquakes? Or some other natural disaster? I don't think that, are you going there to sightsee, or what's the plan? I don't get it. Maybe it's just me. So that's what's going on. I think that there's a lot of this kind of stuff. People come in and out of schools left, right, and center. And I mean, like parents of kids, aunts and uncles of kids, grandparents of kids, people who have been all over the place, just back from vacation, working with people who are just back from vacation. And I mean, they don't have students in the school and this particular case of this person who came to the school with COVID-19. So are all those people exposed? How contagious is it? We don't know, right? And that's the fundamental problem. So our governments lack of reaction, our government's focus on, things that they promised during the 2019 campaign, I think is really odd. And this is what I said at the start. In the face of all of the things that are happening just in the last couple of days, never mind the last year, right? There's just so much happening, and the government seems completely tone deaf. The government seems either lost and not sure what to do, or they know what to do, and they're just going to stay the course, right? Conversion therapy. That's it. And where's Bill Morneau? Anybody seen him? Is he still on vacation? I don't know. There's been no news about him. Nothing. What's he doing? Is he in his seat there? I have no idea. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Oh, sorry, I'll address this as well. I'm late this morning because I'm homeschooling this week, and March break is next week. So, yeah, we'll see how things shake out. And so my videos will be published when I can find the time to do it. And right now is after lunch, and now it's time for recess. So I got to get going. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful